All right, good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I want to I want to tell us about like your common car problems and what the probable fixes are, like the probable repairs or the probable approach to finding a solution, probably temporal and permanent to it. First of all, I'm going to tell you about the things that needs to be changed or needs to be looked at as you drive your car. The very first one is your engine oil, right? Very importantly, in the engine oil is like the life of the engine. The major requirement of any engine is the engine oil. So check your manual and see how many mileage you should go before you change your engine oil. Make sure you don't exceed that mileage, okay? Even if you will, not by so much, right? Because it's very, very essential to keep that engine lubricated and keep it cool. If you want your engine to last the longest, always pay attention to your engine oil mileage and the time where you need to change it. So make sure you check your manual. For me, my own is 5,000 mileage. Next oil you need to pay attention to, I think these are some of the other oils that some people overlook in their engines, is the gear oil or the transmission fluid. All right, a transmission fluid. It basically helps with your gear. All right, it lubricates it. The gear goes from 1 to 2, especially in automatic vehicles. You don't have to push it manually and all that. So it lubricates it. You don't need to change this often. If you don't drive your car as many times, you just need to do this once a year, right? Just once a year is very, very good. But don't ignore it, for God's sake. Don't go 2 years, 3 years without having to touch your gear oils at all. Just try and make sure to, change it from time to time. It actually helps the responsiveness of your gear because it lubricates it very well. The next is the hydraulic oil. A hydraulic oil or the brake oil, basically the hydraulics work with the brake for the in fact that's the only function of the hydraulic oil. It functions as brake fluid for the vehicle. All right, it has to be gauged at all times, at every single time. Look, if you don't know where your hydraulic oil gauge is, make sure you ask your mechanic and make sure you always check it. Okay, it doesn't go down that easily, so you don't probably have to always check it, but make sure your eyes are on it. All right, very, very important. It's very vital to your vehicle because braking when driving is a very essential work that emanates with a hydraulic oil. If that hydraulic oil is too low, your vehicle braking system might actually be affected. So please pay very rapt attention to hydraulic oil. Next is your power steering oil. Now, power steering oil, also another oil that has been ignored, overlooked. You don't necessarily need to gauge it, but from time to time, please change it. It gets really dirty and then it clogs the power steering pump and ultimately damages the pump. You don't fix the pump, or I've not really heard of anybody who fixes the power steering pump. And once that power steering pump is damaged, over time, your steering begins to become hard. It's no longer soft to the touch as it used to be, and then there's a sound that goes like woo, woo. Okay, I don't think I'm actually depicting it right, but you will notice a sound whenever you try to turn the steering. That's how you know the power steering oil has gone bad. Or maybe it's probably not bad, maybe there's just air in the system. All right, so try and check, especially for dirt in your power steering oil compartment. Okay, when the thing looks like it's gone dirty or the color is really changed, try to just pour out that one and put in a new one. All right. Okay, next is well, let me tell you about engine overheating. Okay, engine overheating basically is like when you're driving and then I don't know, for some people when they go beyond 100, on their speedometer, the engine begins to overheat. For some people, when they turn on their AC, the engine begins to overheat. What causes engine overheat is no other than a bad radiator system. Okay, or rather I should say a bad cooling system. A radiator is just one of the cooling system. Even your engine oil, I don't know if you know this, but your engine oil actually act as a coolant to your engine, even more than a lubricant to your engine, right? It's one of the things that actually cools down the engine. Another thing is your radiator, another thing is your fan. So when your radiator system is bad, more than likely your engine will overheat. Now, I used to have this problem. My own issue was very specific in that it's dealt with, like the radiator was leaking, but very slightly. So every morning before I drove out, I always had to put water inside. At some point, I became accustomed to it. I didn't know this was not normal, right? Until after a while, I then realized that, oh no, your radiator is not something that you fill up with water every morning. It's good to check it, but it's not supposed to have gone. It doesn't burn out. It's a circular process. Okay? So when your engine is overheating, look at your radiator system very well. And then when you notice that your water in your radiator is always going down, try to check out for leakages in your radiator. You don't necessarily need to change it. There are so many wonderful repairmen out there. So when your engine overheats, you check the radiator system. You check that your fan is also working perfectly well. And then one more thing you should check is thermostat. There is always a thermostat that comes with every engine that, well, of any vehicle that is not made in Nigeria, there is always a thermostat. When that thermostat is in your engine, you were supposed to remove it, because the reason the thermostat is there is because it regulates the amount of water, or when the water should flow into the engine. When the thermostat oh boy, it's a whole process. You know what? Just make sure you check your engine, especially if it's a new engine, right? Make sure you check if it still has its thermostat. If it has its thermostat, please remove it completely. If you drive a car in Nigeria, you don't need a thermostat connected to your radiator. That will definitely not do you any good. Okay? Okay, next, let me tell you about jerking. When you're driving and then you notice that sometimes when you try to speed up, you just notice there's some kind of lag in your engine, like it didn't respond as it should. Or sometimes when you actually are on speed and then you try to increase that speed, you notice there's some kind of lag in the engine. It doesn't move as it should. There's a bit of a jerk, right? Most of the time is not, except you use or you drive an electrical vehicle. Otherwise, it's mostly your spark plug. Your spark plugs are weak. They are not responding as they should. Okay, so your spark plug creates the combustion that helps your engine respond to your firing and all that. Okay, so changing your spark plug might just be the solution. It's not a very serious problem, but don't let it get too serious, okay? Because when your spark plug don't work properly, your fuel consumption is actually increased, right? So always check your spark plug whenever you notice the jerking and all that. It could be the spark plug, or some other time it could be the coil, but very rarely it's the coil, because the coils don't spoil that easily. Coil could go for years without going bad. So just change your spark plugs, okay? Next, if your car is bouncing when you're moving, that just means that your tires are swollen. All right, especially when you're when you're slow, when you're moving slowly, right? And then you notice there's some kind of movement, like you are on a very bad road or something, whereas the road is smooth. That means your tire, one or more of your tires, are actually swollen. There is no remedy for this. You just need to change the tires, get a new one. All right. And sometimes the swollen nature of it is not very visible, so you just take it to any mechanic, or they know how to feel it, and then they can tell you. Or if you look quite closely, you can be able to tell that, yeah, this is the one that is swollen. So next is when you hear a cracking sound when you drive. This doesn't happen very often, again, but the cracking sound is very, very obvious. Like, it sounds as though it's like two irons are grinding together. Two rusted iron, I should say, are grinding together. Okay? It's not very loud, but you would notice it as the driver. All right? You would notice it. And another way, again, to also be very sure that this particular thing I'm explaining is what is exactly happening to your vehicle is that it only happens at the front tires, and you will see some splash of grease around the rims. Okay? That simply means that your hub bearing has gone bad. Whenever the bearing is out of grease or the bearing has gone bad, please don't just grease it. Greasing will you're just wasting your money. If somebody says just grease it, don't worry, it will work. No, no, no. It's not going to work. It's probably going to reduce the sound for a day or two. It's going to come right back. So your best bet is to just change the bearing. The entire hub, of course, is much more costly, and I don't think you need to change that. The bearing alone can be changed. I think at the moment that costs around 6,000 in naira. So please change your bearing, and it will give you a smoother and noiseless movement with your vehicle. The next is when you have a vibrating steering, when your steering vibrates vigorously when you match your brake or when you brake your vehicle. This always happens, or mostly happens, when you're on speed and then you try to brake and your steering just keeps going really vigorously, just shaking, right? It's not a really big issue. It just means that your inner shaft is out of grease. You go to the mechanic, tell them, please grease my inner shaft, and then try your vehicle again. 100% that problem is gone. All right? And then try it again and see if it continues. If it continues, then that's when you can then check things like the discs, because issues like that don't generally emanate from a bad disc. It's mostly that your inner shaft is out of grease. So you might just go for a total servicing of the legs of your vehicle to just make it more sound. Next, a smoking engine. Well, a smoking engine simply means one thing: the rings in your engine have expanded, and the engine oil that is supposed to go in a circular motion inside the engine is leaking into the exhaust and burning out as white fumes. So when your engine starts to smoke, especially white smoke, not black smoke, white smoke, the black smoke means something entirely. The white smoke is what I'm talking about right now. When your engine starts to have excessive white smoke coming out, please don't mistake this white smoke for the ones that come out on a very cold day, especially after it has rained, or in the morning when you start your car and you see a little white smoke coming out of your engine. No, that's not the same thing. That's just because your engine is really cold, so the little white smoke will come out. All right, but when consistently your engine is smoking and it's white, that means your rings have expanded and your engine oil keeps leaking into the exhaust and it's burning out as the white smoke. Every time you can check your engine oil, you will notice that your engine oil no longer, it's always going down. It's almost like it's finishing every now and again. So there are two solutions for this. You can either ring your engine, or the actual term for it is engine overhaul, or you could just buy a new engine. Most preferably, I would advise that you buy a new engine, because the compression of a ring inside the engine compartment is not something that is done by, well, not every mechanic. Usually a machine is what does this compression so that it is exact, but you know, our mechanics are not really trained in engine coupling, so you can understand if it's not been done right. I had once ringed my engine and it did not It didn't last more than a month. It started to smoke again, and I spent 100,000 to be precise on that ringing. It was a very terrible idea. I still had to go change the entire engine at the end of the day, because that's what you can trust. But that's not to say that I've seen some other people who have ringed their engines and it actually lasted for them, like it worked for them. So these are the two fixes. So whichever one you do think it's best, well, good luck to you. Next, if you want to start your engine and your engine doesn't seem to be working fine, like it's not kicking basically, right? You want to on your car, but then the car is not kicking. If you could check that your battery is all right and every other thing is fine, then you have a kickstart problem. That's just it. Sometimes the solution, a temporal solution to this, is to just use like a screwdriver or something and hit the kickstart a couple of times, like just go back on the head of the kickstart, and sometimes it actually works. The problem with the kickstart is hardly ever beyond two things. It's either the brush is worn out or the bendix has become bad. It just needs replacement. So in most cases, you don't need to buy the entire kickstart. You just need to change the bendix or to replace the brush inside. Okay. And then if your battery is not charging, it means you have an alternator problem. Sometimes check the connection to make sure that everything is fine, but more than likely, if your vehicle is not electrical, it's an alternator problem. Okay. So sometimes you could have like a temporal fix wherein when you're driving and you notice that the battery light comes on, you can park the car off it, open the bonnet, give a nice couple of hits on the alternator, and then go start the car again and then see if it works, at least as a temporal thing. Also, with the alternator, some components inside is malfunctioning, so it needs to be fixed. So, but as a temporal fix, you could just hit the alternator and then get the car running again. If he continues doing that, that means, in fact, as a matter of fact, you still need to fix it. So yeah. Okay, finally, let me tell you a thing or two about the AC, right? If your AC is not working, and that means you have a compressor problem. But the compressor in every car, or the compressors generally don't have issues, right? They don't spoil so easily. They're one components of the car that could go on for 5 years and years without actually giving you any issue. So, but if the AC is not working at all, that means your compressor has gone bad, or some components connected to the compressor is not working. Have a technician look at this. Next, if your AC is not cooling, it needs gas. Okay, an AC gas, by the way. An AC gas, it's been sold in cans, it's been sold in canisters, but it needs an AC gas. Apparently, I didn't know this. I remember one time I was using my AC. I couldn't understand why it wasn't cooling. I thought the AC was bad until somebody suggested, you need gas. I filled up the gas and the damn thing started to cool really well. I was like, Jesus, I almost freaked out because I thought the AC had actually gone bad. Okay, so when it's not cooling but the compressor is okay, you just need gas. Next, if your AC is making a squeaky sound when you turn it on, it's almost like the fan is not being how do I explain this? You just keep hearing a squeaky sound when the AC is on, like very loud squeaky sound. Okay, it means there is a component right under the fan that needs a little bit of oil. A condensed engine oil will do the job. A very good AC technician can be able to discover this for you. You don't need to lose the fan down. You just need to find that little compartment where the fan is turning, and then just pour a little bit of condensed engine oil, very, very effective. The AC will become so quiet. It's going to blow like nothing is even blowing in the car. So, next, if your AC only works when it is in the highest position, you put it in low, it's not working. Maybe medium also not working, or maybe only low is not working, but then medium is working, and then, or let's say the high is working, or just the highest is working. Like when all the different, should I say, grades or stages or velocities, or rather whatever, of the AC is not working right, what you need to look at is the resistor. There is something called the resistor. It's located under your dashboard. It's a very tight corner, but a resistor is there. It doesn't always go bad, but when this happens, definitely look at your resistor. That is the only problem you're having, not your AC, not your fan, just the resistor. Okay, and then finally about the AC, whenever you notice that as you're turning your vehicle, there is some kind of sound like water is boiling on the one end of your vehicle, or you notice that when the AC is on and everything, you just realize that there is some kind of moist air coming out as fume from the AC vent. What it means is that your outlet, the AC outlet for the water, is clogged, is blocked. So just get your AC technician to clear out that pipe, and all the water flows out, and you will never hear that sound again. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm sure there are tons and tons of other kind of fixes, but well, this is all I can think of for now. So I hope you learned one or two things. We'll talk later.